Hi, I'm here to tell you about the differences between a 504 plan and an IEP. 504 plans are for students who have a disability or documented history of a disability that interferes with a major life activity. One of those major life activities can also be learning. So students can receive accommodations in a 504 plan. They cannot receive special education services, nor can they receive modifications in a 504 plan. Students who are on a 504 plan will have a yearly meeting of a 504 team, which the parent should always be invited to, and they will sit down and write up a plan to find the appropriate accommodations for that particular student to meet the needs of that particular student. An example of an accommodation might be a student in a wheelchair might need a ramp up to his or her classroom to provide equal access to that student. A student with ADHD may have a 504 plan, and if it's appropriate, that student may receive something like extended time to complete an assignment or test, which is almost always considered an accommodation. Students who qualify for IEPs it's a two-pronged test. First of all, there has to be a disability. Secondly, that disability has to require that the student receive special education services in order to benefit from his or her education. So having a disability alone is not enough to qualify for special education services. An IEP team will meet every year, and there will be an initial IEP team meeting to determine eligibility, and the IEP team usually consists of an administrator, administrative designee, a school psychologist, a special ed teacher, and the parents have to legally always be invited. Hopefully, if you're a parent, you'll attend to put in your input. Oftentimes, the disability that is being discussed is a possible learning disability. Students are labeled as having a learning disability when there is a discrepancy between their performance and their ability. So we know they're able to perform at a higher level than what they're performing at. So that means student has an IQ of 110, but their test performance is below that. In that case, there's usually the school psychologist has to do a test for that, and that's who's qualified to do that. There may be a processing disorder. If these things are all true and the student needs special education services, which range from anything from being in a resource specialist classroom to receiving speech and language services, then that student will qualify for an IEP. IEPs can also be used to give students modifications. However, caution should be used when giving students modifications because many districts do not grant diplomas to students who receive modifications. An accommodation allows students to still meet the same standards that the other students meet. It just makes the material or content or standard more accessible to them. A modification requires the school to modify the actual standard. In that case, a student is no longer meeting the same standards as other students, and many districts will not grant diplomas for those students. So those are just some things to keep in mind, and I will be posting a little bit more about the differences between accommodations and modifications very soon. Thank you.